me playthings of the dead.
Our research begins. The rituals never die.
Hello guys, welcome to the video. This is Banana Luck here, and I just thought I'll show the, video preview of when you actually get Morrigan. So, Morrigan is the Cultist faction lord, and before we get into it, first of all, the reason why we're even taking a look at her is due to the Ancient Summoning event that's taking place this weekend. So, the drop rates for both Morrigan and Lugaru will be increased by 10x. It doesn't mean there's 10 times the chance to actually get them. It just means that if you do get a legendary hero from the ancient summons, there's a 10 times higher chance where you either get Lugaru or you get, Morrigan. So onto the hero itself. So I think a lot of people are familiar with Morrigan as one of the best AoE mages in the game. So what makes her even better is that she's the Cultist faction lord, and other than increasing attributes and dealing extra damage to enemies inflicted with stun, freeze, immobilize, or any other control effects, most importantly, she increases all faction allies' AoE damage by 25%. So I can see how this pairs very well, especially with my Vienna, Zealous, as well as my Cerebus, because all of them are, AoE based units. So I think that's where her lot bonuses actually really shine. And taking a look at her stats under hero details, at max level, I think this is quite average stats, especially when it comes to attack. I think 4000-ish is pretty much what we expect to see on most other heroes, and a cost of 17 is pretty alright. Vienna is at 20 and Zealous is at 25, so 17 is actually well below the average, I'll say. And her attack interval is 3, which seems to be quite standard. And I'm not sure if you can actually reduce it with attack speed, but I doubt that will be the case because all the Cultist units have the same thing where, you're unable to change the attack speed at all. But what she basically does is that she just does AoE damage all around, and her kit seems to be all surrounded around her talent, which is Curse Bombs. So her talent allows her to have a 30% chance to release Curse Bombs. So what does this do? For 2 seconds, it deals 25% magic damage to the target that she hits, and it explodes at the end, dealing 50% AoE damage to surrounding enemies. So you might think that this doesn't sound that great, but bear in mind that she attacks 3 targets at 1 for each magic attack, and when she does her ultimate, she releases a wave of Curse Bombs at up to 3 targets in the range. So this means that she releases 4 Curse Bombs at max level every time she attacks. And the rage cap for this is actually pretty low if you look at it. It's gonna be 500 at max and 200 initial rage point. So with the amount of units that she's hitting, she'll probably regenerate that quite quickly. And when she releases the Curse Bombs, there is this other passive where after it detonates, it generates a ground effect area, dealing 10% AoE damage for up to 8 seconds. And as with all airborne units, damage from the Curse or the Cultist faction, they all take half the damage compared to other damage types. So lastly, I think this is just a damage boost, so up to 30% at max level after she's been deployed for 40 seconds. So that brings the damage up to like about 5000, just not accounting for any other items or bonuses that she has. And I think her talent, we've already spoken about that. So looking a bit closer at her kit, it seems like this skill of hers looks a lot like Zealous. But Zealous is the budget version because Zealous can only attack, or rather release, one of these ground effects at one go because he has that 5-second cooldown. Whereas for Morrigan, it seems like she can release this up to 4 times per Curse Bomb. So I'm not sure if Curse Bombs actually stack on the same unit, but if it does, it means that she's gonna really go ham when it comes to, you know, activating her ulti. So I think generally she's gonna be used in Gear It 1, especially since that's the wave where, you know, most of the units are gonna be more vulnerable to magic damage as well as AoE arena. But I think beyond that, possibly, I don't think she'll fare well in Gear It 2, given that you actually need to burst down units, and it doesn't seem like her kit allows her to do that. But she'll also come in handy during Tide. I think that's where I'm still lacking magic damage. I see that my Zealous alone is not doing enough. Vienna is doing way more damage than her, but you know, maybe another AoE mage like Morrigan could come in really handy. I'm not asking for much. Commit works as well, in case, you know, the game devs are listening. But, you know, with the 10x event coming up, you know, I thought it'd be a good chance to take a look at her skill kit. And onto Awakenings. It was quite interesting because when I took a look at this at her Awakenings before this video, I realized that she has this talent that is quite similar to Cerberus. Other than shortening her revival time, she generates a ground effect area upon death. Sounds a lot like Cerberus, and I hope it doesn't look exactly the same because that would just be lazy. And onto her other talents, or rather Awakenings. Basic damage is increased by 10%, that's nice. And then 5% increase to her attack, and also faction allies get 5% more AoE damage. So this brings it up to 30%. And then her 4th Awakening is just extra rage regen, and then Curse Bombs explode upon hitting a target and cause damage. So that means that the explosion happens before the 2 seconds. It just means that she gets out her damage way earlier. But who am I kidding? It's Morrigan, it's a lot unit. You're not gonna get to Awaken 5 for sure. Perhaps Awaken 1 or 2 if you get lucky with Soul Stones, or if no, you're wheeling out on the Ancient Summoning event this weekend. But I can see why, you know, she fares really well in Gear It 1, because she just seems like a more amped up version of Zealous. And based on my current lineup, I do hope to get her, but who am I kidding? I only have 11 Ancient Summoning Crystals, and the previous round we had this, you know, we weren't too lucky. So we only got lucky with like our very last summon, where we actually got Gun over here. So this was like the one Lego unit that I got from like, I think 15 to 20 odd Ancient Summons. So I don't know if I'll be as lucky this time, but Morrigan will be quite a nice addition, considering that in my lineup there's only Vienna, Zealous, as well as Cerberus for my AoE mages. But I think Morrigan is just going to be more reliable than both Zealous and Cerberus, given that Cerberus has that short duration of like 20-ish seconds to deal damage, whereas Morrigan will just be there all the time. So that's it for the video, guys. A really short one. Just wanted to, you know, run through Morrigan's kit and, you know, see where she stands, which of the areas that she'll do well in, and, you know, I wish you guys luck in the Ancient Summoning event this weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.